in there, some of these women today, you still have your mother who can give you that game. And then you got some women that won't even fucking listen to their mother. Regardless of how your mother raised you or whatever, she got enough sense to know. If you came up with your mother not having your father, that means your mother was doing the same thing. Why a princess needs a queen. What I've been seeing lately with these young ladies today is that a lot of them don't have wisdom, don't have guidance from the queen, from the older woman. When we're dealing with men, as I'm getting older, we start to realize how important it is for a young man to sit up under an older person, meaning that you're getting wisdom. Back in the day, my father would call it getting gamed up, you know, where the older guy can school you on some things that can save you a lot of times from getting into some trouble, making the wrong decisions. But what I'm starting to see, and I never noticed this, is that I don't see a lot of women up under other women or getting schooled by any older women. I don't know what the big issue is, but I think that's a lot of the biggest issues today we got, is that a lot of women don't have older women to really hang around, to really teach them what we would say about life. Even to the point where, as I see a lot of women struggling with African American men, constantly in and out of relationships. You got baby daddies, not just one, but 2 and 3. You know, you got all these kids. Now again, a lot of it has to do with the fellas too. But right now, I notice it more with the women, that they don't have nobody to sit up under. And that's what got my attention, is that who do y'all go talk to? Who do you go sit around and hang around with? For us, the fellas, what we do, and I know a lot of young brothers need to be doing this as well, but for myself, you know, people wonder why I smoke cigars. I smoke cigars for a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons that I smoke cigars is because it puts me around older men. It puts me around brothers not even really that old, but you know, 5 or 10 years older than me. I got brothers that I hang around that's in their 50s. You know, I got a couple that's in their 60s. I got a couple that's in their 70s. That smoke cigars, but the brothers that's just right above me, the 50s and the 55s and the 60s, you know, I hang around them brothers just to gain their whole wisdom. I sit around them and talk to them. But I wonder, the question is do women do the same thing? Because I don't see it, nor do I hear it. And I share a quick story with you. Me and my buddy Kirtland, we were sitting at his house one day. His mother was in town, and a young lady was in the kitchen with her. It was just them two in the kitchen. Now, mind you, his mother's there. His mother's a very seasoned woman. They call her Mama Hattie. She was in the kitchen getting everything ready, cleaning and cooking, and she had this young lady assisting her in the kitchen. And mind you, this is an educated young lady, PhD, you know, well seasoned as far as education and being intellectual. But we sat and listened to their conversations in the kitchen. And they were sharing stories back and forth. But the interesting thing that we were noticing is that when Mama Hattie was talking, sharing some wisdom, as you were, getting gamed up, giving her game about some things, immediately she would respond with an answer, or combat this answer, or combat the wisdom that she was getting. And as I was hearing this, I heard my man Kurt. I said, man, did you hear this? I was like, dude, why don't she just be quiet? Why are you still talking when you got an older person giving you game and you constantly going back and forth with them? And you can see his mother is like, she's telling a story, but she can kind of say this is a hard-headed girl. I.e., we wonder why she's single and she can't ever find no man. But here's the thing. We as men, I know for me, when I get around an older person and they're talking, I'm a straight sponge. All I do is listen. I don't try to combat, oh man, you can't do that. Oh man, you shouldn't be doing that. Or try to give them, all this negative energy back. Sit back and listen. Listen to what we say is listen to what the OG is saying. Listen to what the OG is saying. Or I would say the king. Listen to what is he saying? Just listen to him. He may not be in the best financial situation. You may have more than he has. But at the end of the day, he's been here longer than you. And there's some things that as men, we have to just sit on our ass and just listen. And I approach the same aspect to women. If you look at a lot of the women today, and I ask this question, how many of you women go and sit under somebody that's older than you? It ain't got to be 20 years older than you. It could be 5 or 10 years older than you, that you go and sit up under and you hang out with them and just spend the time with them and just treat them for a day. Or just hang out with them and just talk. How many of you do that? That's the question, because I don't see it a lot. Even when I'm dealing with women, I'm talking to women, and I'm wondering, like, where is your wisdom, man? Like, some of this shit is simple. Why y'all keep failing over and over and over with these fellas? It's the same shit I keep hearing. And what the missing piece is some of them ain't got enough wisdom yet. You still making the same mistake. You still picking the wrong dude. A lot of dudes can tell you that's not the nigga you need to be with. And you making up excuses for this motherfucker. You babying him. You basically handicapping him. But at the end of the day, y'all ain't got no wisdom. And I'm talking about overall, there may be some here and there. Some of these women today, you still have your mother who can give you that game. And then you got some women that won't even fucking listen to their mother. Regardless of how your mother raised you or whatever, she got enough sense to know. If you came up with your mother not having your father, that means your mother was doing the same thing. If you got the same thing going on, you grew up and you got your kids and you ain't got no man or their daddy ain't in their lives with you, that means your mother was doing the same thing and you doing the same thing what your mother was doing. In other words, try to figure out what the hell is going on. Now there's some things you just can't get around, but there's some time where you can start eliminating some of these fucking problems to the point where y'all just that bad at it that y'all don't want to listen. And ain't listen from the man, listen from the older woman. So that's my question is who do y'all talk to? Some of you barely got best friends. If you're a woman with no friends, no real solid friends, that's a problem. Period. If your friends are flaky and you probably the flaky one, why you ain't got no friends, you're the problem. Period. And even in the ones that are married, you run around the house and you hack around the house where the brother ain't got no rhythm. He can't do shit around that motherfucker unless you always involved. And if you ain't giving a brother a space, especially when you married, or you constantly contradicting him whatever he says need to be done, you ain't got a fucking life. Period. You just don't have a life. Don't have any friends, and you don't have anybody above you to give you some wisdom about the game. And again, a lot of times I see a lot of women with the same thing, the older women. They still carrying on some of this baggage. And then of course, you passing it down to the young woman and she's getting confused too. So it's a lot of that going around too. But at the same time, as I'm seeing this, there's a lot of smart women out there who's probably saying, you know what? I'm at this point in my life that I finally figured out some shit. And then they are willing to share that game with you on how to treat a man, how to approach your man, how to carry yourself as a woman. A lot of that is critical. A lot of times you see the women today, and not all, but the only way they can get a man's attention is showing their body, right? And that ain't nothing new either. That's been going on since the beginning of the time. Only thing different about it now is the clothes are getting less and less and less, to a point where now most men ain't even intrigued by it no more. I know I ain't. I done seen it so many times. You can go on Instagram and naked chicks just about all over the place. So when it really comes down to is, where's your head at? Where's the wisdom at? So I always ask the question, I'm asking it again, is who do you women sit up under to gain your wisdom from? If you're doing this thing by yourself and thinking you got this figured out, you got this all fucked up. You ain't going, and nothing's gonna come from that. And so this is why we do the things that we do as men. We fellowship. Where they say fellowship, meaning that the brothers get together and we just hang out and talk. Sometimes we don't even say anything. But just the fact that we there, we are able to let our minds relax and do what we need to do, right? But I sit up under older brethren all the time. And I make sure that I'm always in the serving position. That's another thing about, queens being under, princesses being under queens and a prince being under a king, is that you learn how to serve. And once you learn how to serve, that changes your whole mindset. I mean, it completely changes your mindset. So I ask the question is, who do you women sit up under? Who are you gaining your wisdom from? And it's sad to say that women don't do that, rather than just sit around and just talk negative. But at the same time, trying to figure out how can you have a conversation and talk about how to get through all of this, So that's my question for today is, who do you women sit around and who do you sit up under? Think about it. When was the last time you sat up under somebody that's a woman older than you and you just sat and just chilled out and just listened? We do it all the time with the fellas. And as I'm getting older, I'm only 48, so I'm getting older, I have a couple young brothers that sit up under me and just listen. And I'm just basically telling them the game. I know what they're going through. I know they single and they at one side of them want to be settled down and the other side want to be hanging out and having fun. And I get that. And I tell them all the time, it ain't nothing new. My uncles, my father, my older cats on my block all went through the same thing. At some point in time, every man is going to get to that point where he's going to mellow out. Because I tell the young guys, it ain't nothing new. What I tell them is, you're going to go through the same roads or go down the same roads, but you got to minimize your risk. Like a lot of cats date a lot of women, and then you got some that's smart enough to know, I got to put on a condom. And then you got the other ones that's like, fuck it, I'm going to go up in the raw, and then you got babies all over the place. Meaning that you got two guys going down the same road, but one minimized his risk. The other one didn't. And that's what we usually share with the young brothers, that you got to minimize your risk so that you can still be able to have your fun, but you're not creating no negative energy. You're not creating no baby mamas. You ain't creating no baggage. So those are the things that I learned from the older guys, my older brethren, or the big homies, or the OGs, however you want to call it. And this is the same game I give to them on how to conduct themselves, how to make sure that don't lose value in yourself. It's okay to pick. You don't have to just jump at every woman that likes you. You got to be very selective with some of these women because a lot of them don't have that guidance. So that goes back to, my original question is who do you women sit up under? Who are y'all sitting up under and listening to? Who do you share your stories with? And how do the older person, the older queen, shares her stories with you? And then you got to be able to take heed to those stories, believe in those stories, and say, okay, how can I add that to my life? So when I go back out and do whatever I'm doing, I have a better understanding of what's going on. So the question is who are you sitting up under, ladies? Who are you getting your game from? And a lot of times it's women giving it to their daughters. That's traditionally how it's supposed to happen. But after you get out of that point, other than your mother, who are you getting game from?